Handling emotion-prone static pictures. Introduction. In our previous discussion, we looked at emotional reactions that can arise from memories that appear suddenly and sporadically. Today, we are going to examine a somewhat different situation: emotional reactions triggered by static images or objects. For some people, even seeing a photograph of a spider, cockroach, frog, or other feared object can produce a surprisingly strong emotional reaction. The object does not have to move. It does not even have to be alive. Why does this happen? And more importantly, can we develop a way of recognizing and controlling such reactions before they become overwhelming? These are the questions we will consider today. Static images can trigger strong emotions. Phobias associated with spiders, cockroaches, frogs, and similar objects are not necessarily driven by the type of sporadic memories we discussed in the previous talk. Even a dead spider, or simply a photograph of a spider, can create a strong emotional reaction. For example, someone may be perfectly safe at home, looking at a picture on a mobile phone, and suddenly experience fear, discomfort, disgust, a racing heart, or an urge to move away. There is no actual spider threatening the person. Yet the emotional response can be very real. Because of this, the technique discussed in the previous chapter is unlikely to provide positive results in every such situation. The triggering mechanisms involved here can be different. Actually, even the practice of simply living in the present moment may not be sufficient to overcome these emotions unless it is supported by other important factors. In fact, becoming locked into the practice of simply observing can be harmful in some circumstances. Consider what happens in the animal kingdom. When an animal becomes motionless because it sees or hears an attacker, remaining completely still can make it an easy prey to the hunter. Therefore, awareness should not be confused with helplessly remaining passive. Awareness should help us recognize what is happening and, when necessary, respond appropriately. Where do these static emotional responses come from? It is important to understand that all static memories that trigger emotions may not be related to the personal experiences of the individual during his or her relatively short lifetime. Some tendencies may have been inherited and propagated through generations. In fact, some of these tendencies may once have helped the survival of the species under conditions that existed in the distant past. For example, rapidly responding to a snake-like shape or a potentially dangerous animal could have been useful when humans lived in environments where such encounters could genuinely threaten survival. The important point is that the environment has changed. A person living in a modern city may encounter a snake only rarely, while a photograph of one can be displayed instantly on a television or mobile phone. Yet the body's protective response may still be activated. Therefore, it is important to collect information about the background circumstances that initiate emotional outbursts. We can then compare those circumstances with identified tendencies in human beings generally and with specific patterns of emotional responses commonly found among other members of the family. There is also another possibility. Emotional responses can sometimes be learned by imitation. For instance, a child may observe a parent becoming extremely frightened when seeing a particular insect, even without having experienced anything harmful from that insect personally. The child may gradually develop a similar emotional response. Therefore, when trying to understand an emotional reaction, it is useful to consider several possibilities rather than assuming that every reaction originated from a direct personal experience. Detecting the emotion at an early stage. Similar to the technique discussed in the previous chapter, identifying the emotion at an early stage is useful for controlling it. Awareness meditation can facilitate the detection of changes taking place in the body at an early stage. The heart may begin to beat faster. Breathing may change. Muscles may tighten. The stomach may contract. The body may become warmer, or there may be an urge to move away. If these changes can be detected early, we can identify the point at which intervention is possible. Practicing awareness meditation immediately before an anticipated event can improve the ability of regular meditation to detect these changes. For example, if a person knows that seeing a particular image normally creates an emotional response, practicing awareness beforehand can make it easier to notice the first bodily changes when the image appears.